We live in an era where humanity can reach across hundreds of millions of kilometers, grab a rock drifting through the void, and bring it home, yet we still struggle to reach across the street and understand one another. We can decode the age of the solar system from dust no larger than a grain of sand, but we can't always remember the age of our own compassion. That's the paradox of our time. We can touch the stars, but we still forget how to touch each other. A few years ago, NASA did something that would have sounded like science fiction to almost anyone in human history. They sent a spacecraft called OSIRIS-REx on a 7-year odyssey to an asteroid named Bennu, an ancient carbon-rich relic left over from the dawn of the solar system. It traveled more than 4 billion miles round trip, danced in the microgravity of a rock barely half a kilometer wide, and returned to Earth carrying a capsule filled with primordial dust older than the planets themselves. When the capsule landed safely in the Utah desert, scientists rushed to open it like children on Christmas morning, except this gift was wrapped by the universe and delivered on cosmic time. And when they looked inside, what they found wasn't just dust. They found a story written in atoms, a story older than Earth. Bennu's material dates back to the birth of the solar system 4.6 billion years ago, when our sun was just a newborn star surrounded by a swirling disk of gas and rock. Inside that dust are minerals that formed before Earth existed, before oceans or clouds, before the first whisper of life. They found carbon compounds precursors to biology. They found water-bearing minerals, signatures of chemistry that once flowed on ancient worlds. They found, in essence, a fossil of possibility. But that's not all they found, because every scientific discovery carries 2 payloads, one in the capsule and one in the mind. The physical sample teaches us about chemistry and time. The philosophical sample teaches us about ourselves. You see, when NASA brought back a piece of Bennu, they didn't just retrieve rock, they retrieved perspective. Perspective that says, we are made of the same stuff as this asteroid. Quote, perspective that reminds us we come from the same cosmic nursery. The carbon in your DNA, the iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, all of it was forged in the cores of ancient stars, scattered through space by supernovae, gathered into clouds, compacted into planets, and eventually into you. That means that when you hold a meteorite, or even touch the dust from Bennu, you're touching family. You are literally holding a piece of your own origin story. Now, here's the part that always makes me smile. When OSIRIS-REx left Bennu, it didn't leave a footprint. There's no Made by NASA plaque on its surface. There's just a small disturbance in the regolith, a reminder that curiosity had passed by. And that, in a way, is how science should work. Not as conquest, but as conversation. Not as ownership, but as participation. Because Bennu is not an object, it's a witness. It has seen the solar system through every chapter. The chaos of formation, the birth of Earth, the rise of life, the emergence of beings who can wonder about it all. To study Bennu is to study the prologue of humanity. And yet, in a way, Bennu has also been studying us. Every time we send a spacecraft to another world, we reveal not only what that world is made of, but what we are made of. Our ingenuity, our patience, our stubborn refusal to accept impossible as a boundary. Because think about what had to happen for that sample to return. Thousands of engineers and scientists across continents worked together for decades. They calculated trajectories with the precision of poetry 1 wrong decimal, and the probe would have missed the asteroid by millions of miles. They rehearsed every movement, every maneuver, every contingency. They built a robot with the steadiness of a heartbeat and sent it into the coldest silence imaginable. And when it finally reached Bennu, it extended a robotic arm, fired a burst of nitrogen gas, and collected a handful of cosmic dust, then began its long journey home. That moment, the touch and go, was 300 million kilometers away. The signal took 18 minutes to reach Earth. By the time NASA knew the probe had touched the asteroid, the probe had already left. The entire operation relied on trust in physics, trust in engineering, trust in each other. That's what science is. Institutionalized trust in evidence and collaboration. It's not a competition, it's a conversation with the cosmos, conducted through equations, sensors, and curiosity. And when the capsule finally landed, protected by its heat shield, carried home by gravity itself, the scientists gathered not just around a box of dust, but around a mirror. Because inside that box was us. Let me explain. Every civilization has tried to tell its own creation story. Some involve God sculpting humans from clay. Some imagine light bursting from darkness. Some describe cosmic eggs, others primordial seas. Science, for all its instruments and mathematics, tells a story just as poetic, but with evidence as its poetry. We now know that the atoms of our bodies were once parts of stars, recycled through countless generations of stellar birth and death. And the asteroids like Bennu are the pages of that cosmic book that never got rewritten. They're the unedited manuscripts of creation. So when we study an asteroid, we're not just studying geology, we're reading the autobiography of matter. We're reading a 4.6 billion-year-old chapter titled How It All Began. But here's what fascinates me most. As we read deeper into these cosmic archives, we start to realize that the line between science and self-awareness begins to blur. Because the more we learn about the universe, the more it seems the universe is learning about itself through us. We are not separate from the cosmos. We are a mechanism of its curiosity. The universe has built within itself a way to look back and say, oh, that's me. And that's exactly what missions like OSIRIS-REx are, the cosmos exploring itself through the medium of human intellect. When we send a spacecraft to an asteroid, that's atoms born in the hearts of stars reassembling themselves into intelligence, and then reaching back to study their own origin. It's a feedback loop of awareness written in starlight. Now that's not mysticism, that's physics having a moment of introspection. The same laws that shaped Bennu shape you. The same chemistry that carved craters on its surface carved neurons in your brain. And maybe the universe didn't need us to exist, but the fact that we do means the universe has a witness. When scientists opened Bennu's capsule, they found amino acids, the building blocks of life, formed long before Earth's oceans existed. That discovery alone reframes the question of origins. Life might not have started here. It might have been delivered, molecule by molecule, on rocks just like Bennu, billions of years ago. That means the seeds of life are not a local miracle, they're a cosmic habit. If that's true, it changes everything, because it means that the universe is not indifferent to life, it's fertile with it. It means that Earth is not the exception, but one expression of a universal pattern. And it means that somewhere, on another world orbiting another star, there might be beings looking at their own night sky and wondering if they too were seeded by the same ancient dust. That's what NASA really found inside that asteroid. Not just organic compounds, but belonging. A reminder that life, in all its forms, might be one cosmic family, scattered across time and space, all reading from the same book of chemistry. But let's pause for a moment, because while we're searching the stars for our origins, the Earth itself is asking us a question: what will we do with this knowledge? It's not enough to know we come from the stars. We have to behave like we belong to them. That means understanding that exploration and preservation are not opposites. They're extensions of the same respect. You can't claim to love discovery if you destroy the only world that makes discovery possible. The dust from Bennu might tell us how life began, but the choices we make now will tell the universe whether life learned how to sustain itself, and that perhaps is the true mission of science, not just to know, but to care. Not just to measure the universe, but to measure ourselves against it. Because if you can travel billions of miles to fetch a handful of ancient dust and return it safely to Earth, surely we can find a way to live wisely on the planet that gave us the capacity to dream that big. We sent a robot to an asteroid and brought it home. Now we need to send compassion into the future and make sure it comes back too. When the capsule cracked open in that Utah sunlight, it looked so ordinary, like a metal thermos filled with dark powder. But inside that dust was everything we have ever wondered about beginning. It carried with it the recipe that would billions of years later become rain and rivers and laughter. And as I watched the scientists lift those samples with tweezers and breath held behind glass, I couldn't help but think, this is what humility looks like. Humanity, kneeling before a few grams of dust, knowing that the smallest pieces often contain the biggest answers. Because every time we reach outward, what we really bring back is inward understanding. That's the hidden symmetry of discovery. We build rockets to chase knowledge, but the orbit always curves back toward ourselves. When Newton formulated gravity, he didn't just describe how apples fall. He explained why the moon stays. When Einstein wrote of relativity, he didn't just bend space and time. He taught us that perspective itself is part of reality. And when NASA brings home a handful of stardust, they're not just collecting minerals, they're testing whether a species like ours can stay curious long enough to deserve its intelligence. It's easy to look at the footage of the recovery and think, that's science. But look closer. Behind every sterile suit, every precision instrument, every line of code, there's a story of cooperation. Thousands of people across dozens of nations, all trusting the same equations, all believing in the same reality. That's rare these days. We live in a world where facts have competitors, where truth has a price tag. And yet, here is a global team operating on nothing but math and mutual respect, confident that the universe will honor both. That's what I find beautiful about science. It doesn't ask for your faith, it asks for your attention. It doesn't care what you believe, it cares what you can demonstrate. It rewards humility and punishes arrogance. And it works everywhere in the universe. The same physics that guides a falling leaf guides the spacecraft's descent. The same chemistry that shapes your body shapes the dust of Bennu. Now, what did NASA actually find in that dust, chemically speaking? They found carbon in complex forms, aromatic rings, amino acid precursors, organic molecules that predate life on Earth. They found serpentine minerals, meaning Bennu's parent body once had liquid water coursing through it. That's extraordinary. An asteroid drifting in cold space for billions of years, still carrying the fingerprints of ancient warmth. It's a time capsule from before the continents, before the oceans, before life. And yet, it's familiar, because those same compounds likely rained onto early Earth in the millions of meteorites that bombarded our young planet. Each impact was a delivery of potential, a chemical letter addressed to whoever learns to read this. And we are the ones reading it now. That's why the OSIRIS-REx sample isn't just about what's out there, it's about how we got here. The amino acids inside Bennu may have been the very seeds that, when mixed with water and time, gave rise to biology. Think about that. Every cell in your body may trace its ancestry to a molecule that rode to Earth on a rock from space. Which means, in the most literal sense possible, you are extraterrestrial. You are the universe noticing itself, a self-replicating collection of atoms that can feel awe about its own chemistry. That's what NASA found inside the asteroid they brought home. A reflection, not just carbon and clay, but continuity. A reminder that life didn't begin as an exception, it began as a continuation of cosmic habit. Wherever conditions allow, chemistry tends to organize itself into something interesting. And we, for reasons that might never stop astonishing us, are the current apex of that interest. So what does that mean for us now? It means the line between exploration and introspection is vanishing. Every time we send a mission outward, we're actually asking an inward question. Can we still cooperate? Can we still be patient? Can we still learn without immediately monetizing the lesson? Because a mission like OSIRIS-REx is the opposite of instant gratification. It launched in 2016, touched the asteroid in 2020, returned in 2023, and will be studied for decades. It's a time horizon that laughs at quarterly profits and election cycles. And yet, that's exactly the kind of patience that built civilization. Someone plants a seed, knowing they'll never sit in its shade. Someone lights a candle knowing the wax will outlast them. Someone launches a probe knowing the data will arrive after they retire. That's faith in the future, measured in light years instead of likes. And we need that faith now more than ever, because we've reached a stage where our technology has outgrown our temperament. We can move faster than we can think. We can simulate empathy without feeling it. We can generate information faster than we can verify it. In short, our tools have matured, but our stewardship hasn't caught up. That's why space exploration is more than a scientific endeavor. It's a rehearsal for wisdom. Every mission trains us in patience, cooperation, and humility, the same virtues we need to survive each other down here. If we can choreograph a spacecraft across 4 billion miles of emptiness, surely we can choreograph coexistence across one fragile planet. Now, think about the symbolism of bringing dust home. For centuries, explorers sailed outward and planted flags. Now, we collect dust and call it victory. That's growth. That's humility replacing hubris. Because the goal of modern exploration isn't to own the universe, it's to understand it. We don't conquer space, we converse with it. The OSIRIS-REx capsule sits in a lab now, under bright lights and careful hands. The scientists studying it know they're reading a text older than language. They measure isotopes, analyze minerals, model reactions, and slowly reconstruct the solar system's childhood. Each result is a syllable in a story that ends with us asking, what do we do next? Do we take this knowledge and use it to protect the only habitable world we know? Or do we treat it as trivia, as another headline that fades by morning? Because the universe doesn't care whether we're impressed. It only cares whether we're consistent. Physics rewards diligence, not applause. The asteroid doesn't notice our excitement. It just orbits, patient, waiting for the next species to notice. That's the quiet challenge encoded in Bennu's dust. Can we match the universe's patience with our own? Can we learn to think in centuries instead of seconds? If we can, then the OSIRIS-REx mission will be remembered not just as an engineering triumph, but as a moral one. A moment when humanity proved it could aim for knowledge instead of noise, for legacy instead of novelty. And if we fail, then the dust will outlive us. And some other intelligence, maybe robotic, maybe biological, maybe unimaginable, will one day sift through our ruins and ask what we found and why we stopped looking. That's the weight of discovery. Every question we answer writes an essay on who we are. The longer you spend with those grains of dust, the more you start to see how familiar their story is. They've been drifting for billions of years, colliding, separating, gathering again, each encounter reshaping what they'll become next. That's us. Humanity is just cosmic dust learning to cooperate. Every civilization we've built is a kind of gravitational miracle, tiny particles of intention drawn together by curiosity and necessity. We form societies the same way matter forms stars, through pressure, through heat, through the delicate balance between collapse and creation. When we forget that, we behave like loose debris. When we remember it, we shine. So, what did NASA really find inside the asteroid they brought home? They found the blueprint for balance. Bennu carries both fragility and endurance proof that even the smallest bodies can survive eons of chaos if they learn how to orbit in harmony with their surroundings. That lesson scales beautifully. We're learning that same thing on Earth right now. Our climate, our technology, our politics, they're all forces pulling on the orbit of civilization. Too much energy in one direction, and we spin out of stability. Too little awareness, and we fall inward toward collapse. Physics doesn't negotiate, it just responds. But the good news is that the same equations that describe collapse also describe recovery. Energy conserved can be redirected. Momentum loss can be regained. Trajectories can be corrected. That's not just orbital mechanics, that's hope with math behind it. Look at how we've always used the sky as a mirror. When we wanted to know how long a year was, we watched the stars. When we wanted to understand seasons, we studied the tilt of the planet. When we wanted to know ourselves, we sent machines outward and waited for them to look back. Voyager turned its camera toward Earth and gave us the pale blue dot. OSIRIS-REx turned its sample return capsule homeward and gave us something even more intimate, a handful of our own beginnings. That's the next stage of the same conversation. And yet, there's something profoundly human about the fact that we had to leave home to understand home. We keep doing that. We leave to remember what matters. Exploration, at its best, is a form of homesickness with ambition. But let's be honest, space missions are expensive, complicated, and risky. People often ask, why spend billions chasing rocks when we have problems here on Earth? It's a fair question. Here's the answer. Because solving problems on Earth and exploring beyond Earth are not opposites, they're siblings. The same ingenuity that lands a probe on an asteroid is the ingenuity that builds clean energy grids, earthquake-resistant structures, and medical imaging technology. Every time we push our boundaries, the tools we invent to survive that challenge come back home and make life better here. The universe has a funny way of rewarding curiosity with utility. Consider this. The material that shields a spacecraft during re-entry now protects firefighters. The algorithms that process telescope data now help doctors detect tumors. The life support systems designed for Mars teach us efficiency for Earth. Exploration isn't a luxury. It's research and development for survival. But there's another answer, quieter and harder to quantify. We explore because it refines our character. It teaches cooperation on scales no war or market ever could. When you're navigating a spacecraft billions of miles away, there's no room for nationalism. Physics doesn't recognize borders. A trajectory calculated in Houston is validated in Tokyo and confirmed in Madrid. That's not politics, that's humanity, acting as a single organism, obeying a common set of laws written into the universe itself. It's a rehearsal for how we could live down here if we chose to. The lesson of Bennu is the same lesson of every great mission before it. That knowledge without humility is just data, but knowledge with humility becomes wisdom. And wisdom, I think, is what the 21st century is starving for. We have information in abundance, but not enough perspective to organize it. We have networks that connect billions of minds, but sometimes we use them to amplify confusion instead of understanding. It's as if the planet built itself the biggest telescope imaginable and then pointed it at a mirror. So how do we fix that? The same way we guide a spacecraft home with constant correction. Tiny adjustments applied consistently can change a trajectory completely. 1 degree here, 1 new habit there, 1 act of empathy repeated daily. That's how civilizations steer. Physics calls it feedback. Ethics calls it growth. If the dust of Bennu carries the chemistry of beginnings, maybe our task is to carry the chemistry of continuation. To make sure that life, now that it's conscious of itself, doesn't become an evolutionary dead end. I sometimes think about how future archaeologists, human or otherwise, might interpret our era. They'll find the layer of plastics, the traces of satellites, the fossils of extinct species. But maybe, just maybe, they'll also find signs of course correction, evidence that a species noticed its own power and chose to wield it wisely. That's the story worth writing. And every small act of awareness, every project built for the next century, adds a line to it. That's what NASA found inside that asteroid. Continuity and consequence side by side. A reminder that the laws of nature are patient, but not forgiving. They allow for discovery. They do not allow for negligence. You can ignore them for a while, but eventually gravity calls in its debts. Yet, think about it, what a privilege it is to even know that. The universe spent billions of years making stars and galaxies before it made something capable of understanding stars and galaxies. That's us. We are the experiment that learned to read the experiment. And when you realize that, caring for Earth stops feeling like a burden. It starts feeling like participation, like finally playing your part in the physics of existence. Because stewardship isn't a moral accessory, it's a survival algorithm. If you want life to continue, you maintain the conditions that allow it. That's as true for ecosystems as it is for engines. Entropy increases whether you believe in it or not. So the question isn't, will we face decline? It's, will we do the work required to reverse it? Every mission, every discovery is a rehearsal for that question. Each spacecraft is a proxy for human behavior: precision, patience, cooperation. The capsule doesn't reach home by magic. It reaches home by thousands of small, deliberate acts of care. And so will we. When I think about that capsule sitting now in a laboratory, I imagine the faint hum of air filters and the steady rhythm of heartbeats behind the masks. That's the sound of a species in conversation with its origins. A low, persistent whisper saying, "We're still paying attention." That's all the universe ever asked of us, to pay attention. Because in the cosmic scale, attention is life. A planet that pays attention adapts. A civilization that pays attention survives. A mind that pays attention evolves. So when we ask, what did NASA find inside the asteroid they brought home? We might answer with the chemistry, or we might answer with a smile. Because what they found and what we rediscovered is the oldest truth in the cosmos. Everything that exists is connected by curiosity. When people look back on the 20th century, they tend to remember it as the century of speed. We learned to fly, then to orbit, then to land on the moon, but hidden beneath the velocity was a quieter transformation. For the first time, humanity learned to see itself as one world. When Apollo 8 took that photograph of Earth rising over the lunar horizon, it changed the geometry of belonging. Borders, politics, divisions, they all shrank beneath a single curve of blue and white. That image did more for global awareness than any speech or treaty ever could. It told us that the us versus them story was never written in the stars. Every space mission since has been a continuation of that lesson. OSIRIS-REx, Bennu, the rovers on Mars, the probes to the outer planets, each is a new verse in the same song. They remind us that exploration is not escapism, it's reflection. You leave home to understand home. And when I think about that capsule full of asteroid dust, I realize we're now writing a new chapter in the space race, one that's less about flags and more about fingerprints. Instead of racing to claim territory, we're learning to trace our origins. Instead of planting emblems, we're planting questions. That's progress measured not in miles, but in maturity. Because space doesn't care which country gets there first. It rewards only those who respect its laws: gravity, inertia, thermodynamics, radiation. In that sense, physics is the most impartial referee in existence. You can't bribe it, flatter it, or ignore it. You can only understand it. And maybe that's why science has become the most reliable common language we have left. Two people who disagree about everything else can still agree that a spacecraft will fall if its trajectory is wrong. That shared humility before the universe, that's our path forward. We like to say that discovery builds technology, but it also builds character. The patience to wait 7 years for a sample to return home, the discipline to check every line of code, the courage to fail publicly and try again. Those are virtues that scale. They apply as much to governing a planet as they do to guiding a probe. And maybe that's the real reason we keep reaching for the stars, because the discipline required to reach them is exactly the discipline required to sustain ourselves. You can't fake precision at 300 million kilometers. You can't run on slogans or wishful thinking in microgravity. You either cooperate or you crash. Down here, we have the luxury of pretending physics takes sides. Up there, the universe is beautifully indifferent, and that indifference is a kind of mercy. It gives us a chance to align ourselves with something that doesn't care who gets the credit. That's the best practice for being civilized I can imagine. So what's next? Where do we go after bringing home the dust of beginnings? Maybe we start bringing home the dust of responsibility. Maybe the next great leap isn't to Mars or Europa, but into a future where exploration and preservation finally share the same launch pad. Imagine if every satellite we launched carried not just instruments, but intentions to monitor deforestation, to map wildfires, to guide relief after disasters. Imagine if every dollar spent on propulsion taught us something about sustainability. Imagine if the phrase mission control referred not only to spacecraft, but to ourselves. That's what it means to grow up as a species. To realize that the point of touching the stars was never to escape Earth, it was to learn how rare and perfect it already is. We now know how planets form, how atmospheres breathe, how chemistry becomes biology. But we're still learning how empathy becomes policy. That's the frontier that will define the next century, not the edge of space, but the edge of conscience. And if you ever doubt whether people can change, look at the sky. Every light you see is an example of change mastered. Stars are stable not because they're static, but because they balance opposing forces perfectly. Gravity pulling inward, fusion pushing outward. That equilibrium between collapse and expansion is the same one we need between innovation and restraint. Too much pull, and we implode. Too much push, and we burn out. Sustain the balance, and you shine. That's cosmic wisdom hiding in plain sight. It's the same reason we orbit rather than fall, cooperate rather than compete, adapt rather than resist. The universe has already written the manual. We just need to start reading it as moral philosophy as well as physics. When I talk to young students about space exploration, they always ask, will we find life out there? I tell them, we already did, you're it. Because what we call life is not an alien phenomenon. It's a cosmic habit of complexity. It keeps happening wherever conditions allow on planets, in minds, and acts of kindness. Every time we choose understanding over ignorance, that's life continuing its favorite trick, turning energy into meaning. So, what NASA found inside that asteroid is not just the chemistry of origins, it's the confirmation of continuity. It tells us that the story of life is written in universal grammar, that wherever there is carbon, water, and curiosity, something eventually looks up and asks, where did I come from? And that question alone might be the signature of consciousness in the cosmos. If one day we do find other beings out there, I hope our first words aren't, we're superior, or we claim this territory. I hope they're, we too wondered. Because wonder is the bridge between all intelligences. It's what turns knowledge into kinship. And that's why the final message of OSIRIS-REx isn't carved into metal, it's encoded in example. It says, build carefully, aim precisely, share generously, return what you learn. That's a good philosophy for spacecraft and for society. Someday, another generation will open a capsule labeled Earth, and they'll sift through whatever we've left behind. Let's make sure what they find tells a story worth reading. Let them find evidence that we understood what the universe was trying to teach, that we are small, but not insignificant. Temporary, but capable of permanence through care. That's the real payload we send into the future. Not technology, but testimony. So the next time you see a launch streaking across the sky, don't think of it as something leaving Earth. Think of it as Earth extending itself. That flame rising through the atmosphere is not escape, it's expression. It's the planet saying, I am alive, and I am curious. When the engines cut off and the capsule drifts in silence, remember, that silence is not emptiness. It's space-making room for the next question. And when the capsule comes home, scorched and small, remember, that's how progress always looks up, close, fragile, imperfect, but full of meaning. What NASA found inside the asteroid they brought home was a message that took 4.5 billion years to reach us. It said, you are part of something that works. Don't break it. So let's not. Let's keep asking, keep building, keep balancing. Let's make curiosity our currency and cooperation our gravity. Look up not for escape, but for alignment. Look around not for enemies, but for teammates. Look ahead not for certainty, but for possibility. Because if we do that, then every mission, every experiment, every question, every life becomes part of the same story. A universe trying again and again to understand itself. And that story, my friends, is far from over. From this distance, you can't see nations or borders. You can't tell where one belief ends and another begins. You see only motion clouds circulating, oceans breathing, light shifting across a turning sphere. That's all any planet ever does. It moves, it bounces, it continues, And maybe that's what all of our science has been trying to teach us to continue. Every orbit, every experiment, every question we've ever asked is really a rehearsal for endurance. The universe doesn't care whether we understand it. It just keeps running the same program. But understanding gives us the privilege of choice. We can align with those patterns, or we can fight them and burn out. That's what Bennu is really whispering to us from its endless loop around the sun. Adapt. Stay curious. Keep turning. When the first astronomers watched the sky, they didn't have telescopes or equations. They had patience. They marked the positions of stars, they saw repetition and chaos, and from that repetition, they found order. That was the birth of science and of humility. The sky told us we were not the center, but part of something larger. Centuries later, we sent rockets up to confirm what the ancients suspected. We went looking for boundaries and found none. We went searching for answers and found questions even more beautiful than the ones we started with. That's the real reward of exploration. Not certainty, but expansion. And so here we are in the age of returning samples from asteroids, decoding the genome of existence, and still asking what it all means. Maybe the meaning is this, that matter, once scattered and silent, found a way to speak. Through us. Through minds that can turn data into wonder, equations into empathy. When NASA opened that capsule, they didn't just open history. They opened a conversation. The universe said, here's how I began. And we, in return, said, here's how far I've come. Every civilization gets to decide what kind of conversation it will have with the cosmos. Some shout, some listen. The wise ones do both. Listening, it turns out, is harder. It requires stillness in a world addicted to noise. It requires patience when everything around you demands speed. But that's what science is, a structured form of listening. Every detector, every telescope, every rover is an ear pressed to the cosmic door, waiting for a whisper. And sometimes the whisper is enough. A few grams of dust, a faint signal, a pattern of light. You learn to build entire universes out of those hints. That's the miracle of consciousness. It doesn't need much to be amazed, but amazement alone isn't enough anymore. We need to turn wonder into wisdom, curiosity into continuity, because now we know we're not just inhabitants of the cosmos, we're participants in its maintenance. That's what stewardship really means. It's not a slogan or a guilt trip, it's physics. Everything that exists is connected by exchange of energy, of matter, of influence. You can't take from one part of the system without affecting the rest. The same equations that govern galaxies govern greenhouse gases. The same feedback loops that stabilize a star stabilize a climate. If we ignore those laws, we break the continuity we came from. If we honor them, we extend it. So yes, let's celebrate what NASA found inside that asteroid. Let's marvel at the amino acids and minerals, the frozen history of creation. But let's also hear the subtext, that survival in any form requires cooperation at every scale, from molecules to minds to planets. The universe doesn't reward dominance, it rewards balance. That's why stars shine for billions of years. They found the equilibrium between pressure and gravity. If we can find that same balance between ambition and humility, between technology and empathy, between progress and patience, then maybe, just maybe, we'll last as long as the stars we study, because every time we forget that balance, the universe has a way of reminding us. A drought, a flood, a wildfire, a data breach, entropy knocking politely, then louder, then with a sledgehammer. And every time we respond, we relearn the same equation. Awareness plus action equals stability. Maybe that's what we're meant to keep discovering, not new worlds, but new ways to deserve the one we already have. Look again at Earth from this distance. The whole species lives on a single pixel. All of human history, the wars, the art, the laughter, the heartbreak, fits into a dot so small you can cover it with your thumb. And yet, from that dot, we've reached the edge of the solar system, split the atom, mapped the genome, and brought home the dust of creation. That's what makes us extraordinary. Not that we're powerful, but that we're aware. Awareness is the universe's greatest experiment, and we are its current prototype. So what will we do with that privilege? We can keep using it to build walls, or we can start using it to build windows. We can keep asking what divides us, or we can start asking what unites us. We can keep treating the sky as decoration, or we can start seeing it as instruction. The laws of physics are already written. The laws of wisdom are up to us. In the end, what NASA found inside the asteroid they brought home wasn't just the past. It was a mirror for the future. It showed us that beginnings are not isolated events. They're invitations. Every time we understand a new piece of the cosmos, it hands us the same assignment. Take care of what you've learned. That's the real mission now. So when you step outside tonight, find a patch of dark sky and look up. You won't see Bennu, it's too small, too far. But you'll see the same stars that shaped it, the same stars that shaped you. Let that perspective settle in. Remember that you are quite literally the universe paying attention to itself. And in that attention lies every chance we have to continue. Keep looking up, keep listening, keep building gently. Because the greatest discovery isn't what we found out there. It's what we remembered down here. That we are made of the same dust we brought home. And that dust, given enough time, can learn to care. If you could stand just outside that line, you'd notice how impossibly fragile it is. 99% of the air we need to live is compressed into a shell thinner, relative to the planet, than the skin of an apple. That's all that separates breathing from not breathing. Every sunrise we see from the ground is light refracting through that film. Every photograph from orbit is a reminder of how thin survival really is. That thinness is what makes our technology beautiful. It's also what makes it dangerous. We're the only species we know of that can alter an atmosphere without meaning to. We've become a planetary force, one that can melt ice caps as easily as it can mine asteroids. And now, after 4.5 billion years of chemistry experimenting with stability, the experiment has reached the stage where the test subjects can rewrite the conditions of the test. What will we do with that power? That's the question that follows every mission home. It followed Apollo's footprints in the lunar dust. It followed Voyager's golden record as it crossed the heliopause. And it follows OSIRIS-REx's capsule sitting in a clean room in Houston, waiting for the next pair of steady hands to open the next container. The data will be studied, peer-reviewed, archived, but the meaning that's for all of us to decide, because the meaning isn't in the sample, it's in the choices it inspires. Maybe the lesson is patience. The sample sat undisturbed for billions of years. We couldn't wait 3 minutes at a stoplight. Maybe the lesson is continuity. The asteroid kept orbiting through supernovas and extinctions. We sometimes forget what a day means. Maybe the lesson is that endurance without awareness is just repetition, and awareness without endurance is just theater. When we put those two together, we get civilization. Civilization isn't buildings or borders. It's the decision, renewed daily, to replace impulse with understanding. That's why science matters. Not because it makes our lives easier, but because it keeps our instincts accountable. Think of how we treat uncertainty now. We fear it, politicize it, monetize it, but to a scientist, uncertainty isn't a failure, it's the invitation to learn. That attitude built every probe, every telescope, every formula that got us here. And it's an attitude we could use a little more of in everything else. If politics ran on data instead of ego, if education ran on curiosity instead of compliance, if economies rewarded foresight instead of extraction, we'd be orbiting stability the way Bennu orbits the Sunday, perfectly balanced between what we know and what we hope to know. Because like any orbit, progress isn't about motion, it's about return. You go out, you discover, you bring something back, and you use it to improve the home that launched you. That's the cycle. Exploration without return is just escape. And if there's one truth the cosmos keeps teaching us, it's that escape is an illusion. No matter how far you travel, gravity remembers you. The same laws that govern galaxies also govern accountability. You can't outrun cause and effect. You can only learn to steer within them. So maybe that's what NASA really brought back, a reminder that home is not a place. it's a practice. It's the ongoing act of making a planet habitable, a society just, a future possible. Look at the timeline. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. Earth, 4.6. Modern humans, maybe 300,000. The Industrial Revolution, 250. The Internet, 30. We've had civilization for a blink of an eye. And already we can alter the thermostat of a planet. That's both terrifying and extraordinary. But here's the encouraging part. Physics doesn't care who solves the problem. It only cares that the equations balance. That means there's still time. The carbon can come down. The ecosystems can recover. The orbit can be corrected. All we have to do is act like the species we claim to be, one capable of foresight. And foresight is really just applied imagination. It's the same muscle that dreamed of reaching Bennu, the same curiosity that built telescopes and algorithms can build justice and sustainability. We already have the tools. We just need to aim them at ourselves. In that sense, the OSIRIS-REx mission is more than science. It's a rehearsal for redemption. It shows that coordination across nations, generations, and disciplines is possible. It proves that patience still has a return on investment. And it reminds us that humility, the awareness of how small we are, isn't a weakness. It's calibration. Because the moment you realize how small Earth is, you stop asking, why care? And start asking, how could we not? When you finally grasp that the same chemistry that shaped Bennu shapes the cells in your hand, you stop seeing science as distant and start seeing it as personal. It becomes impossible to harm the world without, at the same time, harming yourself. That's what NASA found inside that asteroid, the mirror equation. For every action in the cosmos, there's an equal and opposite responsibility. You can't extract knowledge without depositing care. You can't pull meaning from the universe without giving gratitude back. So let gratitude be our next great invention. Let it power our engines, guide our policies, shape our cultures, because gratitude is just awareness with direction. It's what curiosity becomes when it remembers where it came from. And if we can keep that alive, if we can pass that habit forward, then when the next generation looks up, they'll see more than stars. They'll see continuity. They'll see proof that we learned the most important thing any species can learn, how to last without losing wonder. The camera tilts up again. Earth grows smaller until it's a pale shimmer against the black. The narrator's voice softens. We went to an asteroid and found ourselves. We opened a capsule and found our beginnings. We looked into ancient dust and saw the outline of tomorrow. The mission continues, not out there, but right here, in every classroom, every lab, every act of patience and cooperation. That's the real return sample, us trying to be worth what the universe invested. So tonight, when you catch a glint of light crossing the sky, a satellite, a plane, maybe even a meteor, don't make a wish. Make a decision to learn, to care, to continue, because the story that began in the dust of Bennu is still being written in the dust of Earth. And if we write it well, someday another intelligence will read it and know, we noticed, we understood, we tried. That's all the cosmos ever asked of us. Keep noticing, keep understanding, keep trying. That's how a species becomes part of forever. And so, as the stars reclaim the sky and the engines fall silent, we are left with what every mission leaves behind: silence, data, and the echo of meaning. The capsule sits now in a vault of steel and glass. A few grams of dust, yes, but in those grains live oceans and storms, mountains unborn, possibilities untold. The scientists will keep studying them, tracing isotopes, calibrating instruments, publishing papers, and yet the real discovery has already been made. That curiosity, even after 4.5 billion years of cosmic evolution, still works. That dust is proof that the universe is patient enough to let intelligence bloom and generous enough to give it something to wonder about. We often think the purpose of exploration is to conquer distance, but the real purpose is to shorten indifference. Every kilometer we travel outward should bring us 1 centimeter closer to each other. Every discovery about the universe should double as a discovery about our shared responsibility. So if you remember nothing else, remember this. The story of that asteroid is the story of us. It began in chaos, found rhythm, endured collisions, and kept orbiting anyway. That's resilience in its purest form. That's what we're made of. And when the next generation looks back, when they ask what we found, what we built, what we became, let's make sure they can say we finally learned how to listen to the universe, to each other, to the quiet between the data, because the real treasure inside that capsule wasn't carbon or clay or water. It was humility. It was perspective. It was the realization that to touch the stars is to take care of the soil that launched you there. The sky has never asked us to be perfect. It only asks us to keep showing up, to keep measuring, questioning, caring, adjusting, just like a spacecraft, tracing its orbit, correcting course one small burst at a time. That's how we survive. That's how we evolve. That's how we honor the dust we came from. So tonight, when you step outside, find the darkest part of the sky. Find a single star. Remember that its light began its journey long before you were born, and that you, improbable and brief as you are, were here to see it arrive. That's the miracle. That's the mission. That's the message hidden inside the asteroid they brought home. Keep looking up. Keep moving forward, and keep treating every moment, every atom, every world as if it matters, because it does.